Right in plain sight, but known to relatively few, lies the remains of numerous civilizations beginning 2,700 years ago. Its archaeological finds tell us of a place of, quote, unparalleled grandeur. But why here, and whose was it? We're at the archaeological park and gardens of Kibbutz Ramat Rachel, which is the southern entrance to Yerushalayim. From this hilltop, one can easily see its strategic importance. Before us lies the modern city of Yerushalayim. Below is a strategic gateway to the city. In ancient times, this roadway was known as the Patriarch's Road. It was the main north-south road of ancient times, extending from Be'er Sheva to Shechem. Whoever controlled this location controlled the road, and by extension, the southern flank of Yerushalayim. So who was the original owner? Based on the finds of this proto-Aeolic capitals, archaeologists surmise that this could date back as far as the 9th century BCE to one of the Judean monarchs. These capitals were Phoenician architecture and thought to have been used as far back as King David and his son Shlomo. 25 of these proto-Aeolic capitals have been located throughout the country. One was excavated in the city of David, but 11 of them were discovered here. Along with fine Asher stones, this was definitely a place of royalty. Could this have been the house of the Baal, the idol built by the Judean queen Atalia, mentioned in Melachim Bet, 2 Kings? She's the queen who killed off all the potential heirs to the Davidic dynasty, except for one who was hidden. Then she usurped the throne and brought idolatry to Judea. That's the hypothesis of the archaeologist Yigael Yadin. Due to the numerous Lamelech stamps unearthed, 145 in all, speculation has it that this palace might have belonged to King Hezekiah, in the late 8th century, as these stamps have long been ascribed to him. Perhaps this serves as an administration center which was used for storage or tax collection. Not many ruins were unearthed of this structure because, towards the end of the 7th century, the first palace was destroyed and a second palace/fortress was built in its place. This one was expanded and further fortified. An entrance gate had been on the east side and had a 5-meter wide double casement walls for protection, along with a citadel. This palace had 3 wings and a large courtyard, but the most impressive parts were the gardens, with pools, water installations, and open stone channels. The garden not only grew local produce, but included items from as far away as Assyria and Persia. The waterworks system was, quote, unparalleled in the land of Israel. And even another hypothesis is that this was a palace built by one of the last kings of Judea, Jehoiakim, who was chastised by the prophet Jeremiah, for building it. Decorated window balustrades were uncovered. These specific decorative elements were mentioned in Yirmiyahu 22, when he rebuked the king who built with such elaborate decorations similar to what had been discovered. But it was a house without righteousness or justice. As it is stated there, quote, woe unto him who builds his house without righteousness. Also discovered was a seal impression belonging to Eliakim, who was thought to have been a steward in the same house of the same king, Jehoiakim. The final hypothesis for now is that this might have been taken over by the Assyrians when Judea was a vassal state. There are no definite clues on site for archaeologists to ascertain which hypothesis is correct. Although this was here during the First Temple period, during the time of the Bible, it is not specifically mentioned. All we know for sure was that this was a very impressive site indeed. With the destruction of the First Temple and the exile of the Babylonians in 586 BCE, this area lay abandoned until the Persian period. The Persians probably used this location as an administration center. They too added grandeur with an additional wing to the structure, and they greatly expanded the gardens. Findings from this period include 270 jar handles that had been stamped with the letters YHD for Yehud, or Judea. Wanting to obliterate any trace of foreign rule during the time of the Hashmonaim in the Second Temple period, this area was destroyed. In its place, a rural settlement was established, and although it changed hands many times, it existed for about 1,000 years. A mikvah, or ritual bath, was discovered. This was still from the Second Temple period, but later from the Roman era. Columbariums, or caves with niches for pigeons, were also discovered here. Pigeons were raised for food, fertilizer, as well as for sacrifices. Accessing this cage is done by descending a wooden ladder. With the fall of the Second Temple in the year 70 CE, this area became a Roman villa with a colonnaded courtyard. Of course, no Roman villa would be complete without a Roman bathhouse. Unfortunately, it was dismantled by the archaeologists to examine a lower layer. A tile with the imprint from the Roman 10th Legion was discovered here, leading to speculation that this also might have been a Roman trading camp. This area changed once again to an agricultural settlement with the rise of Christianity. Remains from the 3rd to the 8th centuries uncovered include a wine press, an olive press, and the remains of a church. It is believed to have housed as many as 5,000 inhabitants. Even with another change of rulers from the Christianity to the Muslims, this area continued to function for another 200 years until the 10th century. It was an agricultural settlement. The Muslims had added rooms and a water reservoir. Why this area was abandoned is unknown, and it was forgotten for the next 1,000 years. Its long history was buried below and remained a mystery for still some time to come. Its next settlement was not until 1926, when Kibbutz Ramat Rachel was founded. It was so named after the matriarch Rachel, whose tomb is just down the road. This settlement didn't last long, as it was destroyed 3 years later during the Arab riots of 1929. Undeterred, the settlers returned, rebuilt their kibbutz, and with it began to flourish. In 1948, Kibbutz Ramat Rachel had the unfortunate distinction of being the only place which was attacked by both the Egyptians and the Jordanians simultaneously, who surrounded it on 3 sides. They were both well-equipped armies. The kibbutz defenders, however, had limited arms and were few in number. Although they fought bravely, the kibbutz fell. Both the Irgun and the Haganah came to the aid of the brave defenders, and the kibbutz was retaken. Kibbutz Ramat Rachel changed hands 3 times in all. In the end, the kibbutz remained in Israeli hands, but there had been a heavy price. Half the defenders were either killed or wounded. The kibbutz itself was devastated. With the victory of Ramat Rachel, the southern frontier for Yerushalayim was secured. It took 1.5 years for the remaining kibbutz members to return and rebuild. They were starting from scratch once again, as everything had been destroyed. And once again they were in a precarious position, as they were surrounded by the Jordanians on 3 sides. A communicative trench was built along the forward edges. Once this area was in Israeli hands, eventually and slowly the hidden ancient mysteries were gradually unveiled. The first to dig here were not archaeologists. They were the soldiers of the IDF, digging the defensive trenches, but their finds piqued the curiosity of archaeologists. It was still unsafe for extensive digs, but in September 1956, there was an Israeli Exploration Society conference here. A group of people were standing on top of the water tower when a Jordanian sniper fired into the crowd, killing 4 and wounding 16. This hill became known as the Hill of the Four in their memory. Kibbutz Ramat Rachel continued to be the forward edge of Israeli territory with its topographical and geographical advantage. So when the Six-Day War began in 1967, it was imperative that the Israelis held on to the kibbutz. This time, the Jordanians were not what they had been in 1948, and finally Ramat Rachel exists in secure borders. 2 interesting pieces of art were created by artist Ron Moran. Called the Hypothetical Rules, these sculptures appear to defy gravity and are located at what must have been the 4 corners of the Iron Age palace. The second piece is located on the western side of the park with a spectacular view. Known as Mitzpeh Yair, it is in memory of a local kibbutznik, Yair Engel, who fell during military maneuvers. Now that quite a large, expansive area has been discovered, the archaeological gardens of Ramat Rachel are opened all the time and free of charge. It's open for all those who are interested in discovering these long-lost ruins.